In the heart of Europe, chaos unfolds tonight as Paris erupts in a dramatic display of civil unrest. The City of Light has become a city of fire, with anti-government protests spreading like wildfire across France's storied streets. The elegant boulevards of Paris, usually filled with tourists and café-goers, have transformed into battlegrounds. Demonstrators, their faces illuminated by the glow of burning trash bins, are locked in intense confrontations with riot police. The acrid smell of tear gas mingles with the smoke rising from makeshift barricades, creating a scene more reminiscent of a war zone than the romantic capital we know. What's triggered this powder keg? The French government's controversial reforms have pushed citizens to their breaking point. But this isn't just about policy. It's about a deeper disconnect between the people and their leaders, a tension that's been building for months. The intensity is staggering. We're seeing protesters hurling whatever they can find at police lines while armored vans are being surrounded by angry crowds.
The French Empire was one of the most powerful in human history. At its height, it controlled almost 10% of the world's land area. From Southeast Asia to West Africa, the country we today associate with baguettes and cinema was a dominant global power. And that was particularly true in Africa. France oversaw territory spanning 17 modern-day nations, from Morocco to the Congo. Under the banner of a civilizing mission, France oversaw brutal occupations that engorged the wealth of the empire and left a terrible legacy for ordinary Africans, marked by slavery, extraction, and murder. And today, France's empire in Africa is still around, in a streamlined, more profitable, and even more exploitative form. Let me explain. In the aftermath of the Second World War, there was a wave of decolonial movements sweeping across Africa and Asia. And the French, humiliated by their defeat and occupation at the hands of the Nazis, were eager to maintain their empire. So they responded to revolts in Algeria, Indochina, and Madagascar with brutal reprisals. Maintaining foreign holdings became increasingly difficult. By 1960, France was forced to grant independence to almost all its colonies. But something really important happened in Africa. Basically, the leadership of France decided to keep their empire in Western and Central Africa intact in everything but name. The plan was simple. When an African country gained its independence, it was made to sign a so-called cooperation agreement with France, which would outline the nature of their relations moving forward. In exchange for French foreign aid, African countries were required to give France rights over natural resources, allow France to maintain troops in their territory indefinitely, and, most importantly, keep these countries' currencies linked to France's currency, the franc. Instead of having their own currency, they were to use the franc of the Financial Community of Africa, what is now called the CFA franc. The French framed these cooperation agreements as a choice, but they were also clear about the consequences of defiance. When the leader of Guinea, a socialist named Sékou Touré, rejected the cooperation agreement with France and declared that he preferred to be poor in freedom than rich in slavery, the French government decided to make an example of him. They cut all foreign aid to Guinea and did everything they could to destabilize the government. They launched a secret campaign to print fake Guinean banknotes and flood the country with them. One French spy later bragged, the operation was a total success. Guinea's economy, already very weak, never fully recovered. The French said that these countries existed within the so-called French community, but the policy would come to be known more widely as France-Afrique. It was about having the former colonies in a position that was maximally advantageous to French interests. Many of the first generation of post-colonial leaders in former French colonies had essentially been installed by the French. They spoke French, had spent time in France, and were well integrated with French elites. Jacques Faucart, a French diplomat, oversaw French relations with Africa for almost 30 years and built a huge web of client relationships with African leaders, using corruption and covert operations to make them loyal subordinates. When local political orders were threatened, the French weren't afraid to protect their hand-picked dictators. Since 1960, France has invaded Africa more than 50 times. Look at the Central African country of Gabon as one example. Gabon is particularly important to France because it has a huge supply of oil and an even bigger supply of uranium. Among the African colonies, Gabon was historically one of the very closest to France. In 1967, a man named Omar Bongo became Gabon's president, soon turning the country into a one-party dictatorship. And Bongo was intimate with France. He had been appointed after flying to Paris for what was basically a job interview with the president. So under Bongo, France and Gabon enjoyed a relationship that benefited both sets of elites. Gabon's oil was pumped by the French state-owned oil company ELF, and its uranium went right into France's arsenal of nuclear weapons. In return, France subsidized Gabon's budget, especially the parts that flowed into the pockets of Omar Bongo and his family. At one point, Bongo was worth over $130 million. Gabon, meanwhile, remained poor and underdeveloped. Under Bongo, it had one of the highest infant mortality rates in the world. Instead of investing in the Gabonese economy, Bongo spent state funds on influencing French politics in his favor, bankrolling the campaigns of several future French presidents. Even today, France keeps troops in the country to support Gabon's current ruler, who happens to be Omar Bongo's son.
The harsh reality is that European welfare states, European social democracies, are now kept afloat on a massive sea of red ink. The welfare states now. That's how it does it. If you know, at the outer extreme, you've got Greece, whose national debt is over 170% of its GDP. If you think that's ever going to be paid back, I've got a bridge to sell you. Italy's over 130%. France, the biggest economy after Germany, is 113%. The only one that is anywhere near the Maastricht criteria, which I remind our viewers, is that debt should not be more than 60% of GDP. That's supposed to be the rules of the European single currency, is Germany. So you've got this massive sea of red ink keeping the welfare state afloat, and few places to go. In France, the state now spends almost 60% of GDP. I mean, does anybody think spending even more, which is what keeping the current pension system would be, will make France a more competitive society? I don't think so.
France did not see what is happening in West Africa coming. So they find themselves at a time when they are very weak economically, when at home the population of immigrants is growing bigger and bigger. You go to cities such as Marseille, you find Algerians, you find Moroccans, you find Senegalese, you find Guineans, you find Burkinabe, and things are not happening as they used to be then.
If living in France for the last 8 years of my life has taught me anything, it's the power of protest.
Now, I don't want to say I told you so, but remember my video in front of the Egyptian obelisk in Paris when I said France owes everything to Africa? Well, since Africa has started seizing back their resources, France is literally collapsing like today.
So the French government has fallen again, but international news media is going to be very shy about telling us the real reason why it's fallen, the economic reasons why it's fallen. On his way out, the ousted Prime Minister, Mr. Francois, said, "You might kick me out, you might remove me, but that does not change the economic problems for the country." I'm paraphrasing. The real reason why France has failed as a government is because Africa has taken its power back. Ever since the country of Niger, in the Sahel, in Central West Africa, decided to nationalize its uranium, France has never been the same again. This uranium that state-owned companies like Orano, French-owned companies like Orano had been siphoning, stealing under the previous government, today, Niger turned off the faucet. Niger said no more. So Niger, under the new governance of President Tiani, is nationalizing its uranium. This uranium France was stealing not only to light its beautiful cities like Paris and Nice, it was also using it to run its electrical manufacturing and industries. All of these are processing and running their nuclear reactors on top of it all. So these things that are the foundations of an economy, like manufacturing and processing, right now that the electricity in France, their energy is not safe. They do not have a reliable place to get their energy from. This is why they're suffering. But it's not going to be told that way on international news media. You're only going to hear it from people like me and others who are truth tellers. So yeah, this is why. This is what happens. This is proof that African leaders are in service of either them.
Yeah, all right, people, welcome back, family from Africa and across the oceans. And now, Pierre Lumumba used to say this, that France never saw this coming. So they find themselves instantly they find themselves ambushed, and they find themselves in a way that they could have not saved themselves or overcome all that was coming and all that came to face them. That's why today you see things are happening in a mysterious way. Maybe some of us never expected such thing to happen at this moment of time. But again, why this is happening? That's when a karma comes in, because we always say that karma pays. Karma pays. Karma pays. I come to agree about this because today all that we're watching happening in Europe is something that we have been always seeing them happen in African continent, because Africa was made to be a poorest country. Africa is not poor. The fact remains that Africa is one of the richest continents in the world, because whatever Africa has, Europe don't have, America don't have, Asia don't have. They all depend in Africa for everything. For them to come up with the ideas of building all that building, manufacturing all that manufacturing today, then without concerning Africa and coming to take all these resources to build all they have to, then nothing can happen. But again, they used to, the fact that Europe and America, all the Westerners have been used to look down towards Africa is that they never wanted, what they were trying to escape is to pay for the minerals and the resources of Africa. They never wanted to. They always wanted to take all these things freely. Because, again, Professor Pierre Lumumba said that France was one of the harsh colonial power that was built on back of other people's sweat, on other people's richness. France killed a lot of people in Africa. France never cared. Before Emmanuel Maccron, we had his predecessor, the kings and the president of France, who colonized African countries. They were harsh. They treated Africa badly. They treated Africa like animals. So all this comes in when I see today maybe the French people and Emmanuel Macron coming out today to speak like they are regretting, they are asking for forgiveness. They are speaking all this in a way that we have to have sympathy towards them maybe. And sometimes I normally ask this question myself. So today we assume that we have sympathy or empathy to these Westerners like America, Britain, France, because that's all that they are looking up to today in Africa. Whenever they today come here in Africa, that is all that they are looking for. Then what will change? Because today all the assassination that has happened in Africa, it was caused by these people. All the destructive, all the distractions, all the exploitations, they caused all this, all the damages today that we are having in Africa, which has been created many years ago and still existing and still destroying and causing more damages. It was all created by these people, because Africa was a good place, a best continent before their presence. Before the arrival of their ships in Africa, Africa was a very best continent, peacefully developed. Because we always know that the true history of Africa was erased, but in real definition, Africa was the mother to civilization. Africa was the mother to all lives. Africa was the mother to everyone. So because of their hate, because of their greediness, that's why they decided to sit down in a place, in a certain room, and decided to split Africa into pieces on a piece of paper without the concern of Africans or the black people, without the concern of any black people to represent the African continent. That's when all these problems started. And after that, what happened? They came, they took over Africa, They enslaved Africa. They killed, they slaughtered, they raped. For those who were not killed, they were taken out of Africa to go and work in French farms, in American farms, in Britain farms. They were taken to hard labors. The enslaved Africans were taken to go and build great countries, the great empires today that we are watching. But after that all contribution, they were never appreciated. They were never appreciated for their contribution. Despite that, the Africans are the one who went to fight for the French freedom after being defeated by Germans. But despite all this, they were never appreciated. They were never appreciated for their contribution, but they were just seen as slaves who were supposed to live as slaves up to this time. That's why they never expected to see any strong person coming out of Africa. That's why we've been having all this great assassination of the great people who are there to fight for the interests of Africans, who are there standing firm to protect the African continent from exploitation, from slavery, from colonization, and everything, who are fighting for the freedom and independence of the African continent.
The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed.
So we have that full history of these great empires, of these great colonial powers. So today, whenever they come to see, to humble themselves before Africa, then we must ask ourselves questions. What are they after? What are they after? What are their interests? Because we cannot tell that deceive ourselves today that these people have transformed. They are now good people. That now we have to join and work together, and now they are going to do business with Africa. We have to associate with them. There is nothing like that. Today, all that is happening, I always believe this, and I normally say this, that they are humbling themselves because of the current situation. Because today they are losing a lot, and they have already lost a lot in Africa. They are no longer benefiting and getting all they used to get in Africa. That's why today they pretend to be like they are guilty. They feel all they did to Africa. But my question remains, how is this going to bring an impact positively in African continent? How is this going to maybe bring back the people who are assassinated? How is this going to help the families who were affected during the genocide, during the assassination period, during the time of slavery, and during the time of colonization, and everything that was destroyed here in Africa? How is they going to be restored? Because we are working now together. So today we see the people, the French people on the street, they are demonstrating. They are demonstrating. Why? Because when you listen to them, their main agenda for this demonstration is that they want their president Emmanuel Macron to resign. Why? Once this is one of the first world countries, the most developed countries, the second largest economic country in Europe, why do they want their leader to resign? Because it is even said that all the empires that was built through the sweat, the torture, and the steal of other people's resources, richness, blood and sweat, they were built very fast, and again they will collapse very fast. We saw the Great Babylon falling. We saw the SSR falling. Today we are watching Europe falling before our eyes. This is not something that we are watching, we are finding through the history. This is not something that we are watching through the movies. This is something that we are watching before our eyes. It is happening before our eyes.
More good news about Africa. They are getting rid of the French. The French economy is crashing because Africa said, actually, no, you can't have my resources anymore. Okay, I never was gonna be like, oh, Africa's a continent. What countries are you talking about? So I made sure I did my research. Okay, we've got Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are specifically the Sahel region and the Sahel, and they created the Sahel Alliance, which is a block of countries in order to kick out the French people. So before this, France was getting the uranium, gold, cocoa, and then a bunch of other resources, basically for free from these African countries. And then not only were they getting those resources for free, they were storing the money and a lot of the like financial stuff in their bank, even though it was owned by these countries in Africa. And so they were like stopping access for them to get their money whenever they needed, and they were keeping all of the interest that was being collected off of the money that they were holding for these other countries.
I normally say that I may like to see the people who are fighting for this freedom, for this unity of the black people, to be alive today and see all that's happening. All that is happening is because all that's happening today is what they were fighting for, is what cost their life. They lost their life because of standing by the truth. And that time, the great empires would have not allowed the blacks to know the truth behind their existence. And now, today, many French people, many whites don't know the history behind their existence. They don't know, many of them, they don't have the clue about how their empires were built, how their countries were saved from colonial powers. The current generation of these great countries like France and America and Britain, they only know that they're the superior, they're the majority, they're the best, but they don't know the history and the truth behind everything they have today. So for those few who are coming to realize the truth, those are the ones who are coming out today and speak. And all these who are coming to admit their truth, it is not that they're pretending. Some of them, they never knew, because they grew under a certain system that was set to convince them, not knowing about the truth behind their existence and behind their development. But today, there are some who are demanding to know the truth. And again, the government's officials cannot come today and tell them about the truth. They can't tell them that they build the empires through looting and stealing of other people's richness. They can't. That's why today you see the people are out of control, despite these countries being strongest, having the strongest weapons. They cannot control their people because they cannot come and start to bomb their people. They have to find a best way to solve these issues. But again, which way will they use? So today, the blacks were believed to be depending on welfare, and now something today is happening different. This is what we call the power shift. This is what we call the spiritual awakening. This is what we call the prophecies, because it was prophesied that those who have been oppressing the people, the innocent blacks, one day they will come to be oppressed, and the oppressors will rise. And this is what is happening before our eyes, because today the French people are living under welfare. Welfare was believed that it was meant for the blacks, and today this welfare is meant for the whites. They are living under the welfare. This is amazing. This is amazing and interesting at the same time, because at this time I don't believe that maybe France or Europe will be able to revive and strengthen their economy again. Because for them to do this, they must come to Africa. They must come back to Africa for them to be able to do this. But again, by the time they'll be ready, finished to fight their own problem, the African continent will be already organized in having the best governance, that nobody will be able to come again and manipulate, because the Africans today are awake. The youths today are standstill. They are protecting their continent day and night. They are fighting for everyone, only for anybody who comes to destroy, who comes to steal, who comes to loot. That's why today we see, if you see, even the African leaders are very confused because the youths are turning against them. The youths are turning against any leader who is not working for the people but associating with the foreigners. Because this is not the time. This is not the time of entertaining and playing around the bush. It's either you deliver, you work for the people, or you step aside. This is the time of the African youth leadership. And this is what we are pushing. By 2063, the agenda of African unity, the agenda of Kwame Nkrumah, the agenda of Pierre Lumumba, the agenda of Malcolm X must be achieved. This is not a request, because this is not a generation of questioning for permission, but we are waking up, we go and fight, and we take what we believe it belongs to us. Just tell me on the comment section. Consider subscribing if you are new here. Join my membership kindly. Leave a comment and a like so that you can come back at the next episode as we do this. Each and every day we speak concerning our motherland Africa and all that's happening, all that is affecting our African continent, because we have to do this. It concerns us all as the blacks across the world. We have to make sure that we fight for the unity of the black person, of the black people around the world. Wherever you're watching from, I am talking to the black people. Just give us our view as how you feel about this whole situation, because Africa was made to be great, and you have to make sure that we reclaim that dignity. Until next time we come and speak something else. May be blessed to reaching from. I love and appreciate your support for you being here always. And thank you so much.